Hello and welcome back to our sustainable journey. I am Steve. Today we'll talk about winterizing our worm bins. So there's a couple of them. The rest you can't see them through the trees. They're over there, out in the pasture area. And so these are the two that we created, I don't know, like a month or two ago, I think. So we keep feeding them. They're doing well. Let me show you how they are. Grab a shovel. So, the worms are down there. I'm trying to think if I have my trowel, but I don't. I will. Come on, worms. I was just. That's probably because I just scraped them earlier today, and so they all went down. There we go. See, there they all are. In this section. So we have all the worms in here, and I'm gonna cover them back up because I clearly don't like it on camera. I cheat. So I put them in our barn. Our barn is right there. Our barn has its own tank for propane, own AC, own furnace, everything. It's all self-contained, temperature controlled, all that good stuff, so that the worms are comfortable year round. I take them out in the spring through the summer because it's easier for me to feed them, to bring them closer to where we empty the buckets out. So that's why they're out here instead of in there. So they're doing well. These are just the two that we started like a month ago, but they've been, I mean, you can see certain areas they've gotten to. So that's how we winterize our worm bins. And the bigger ones, like when they get full, so they'll get, we probably won't get them up past like this level. They can stay out. They're fine. They're lidded. They kind of pack toward the middle. The outside will freeze. Probably 6 inches to a foot will be, no, probably 3 to 6 inches is frozen solid, and then the inner parts will be fine, and that's where all the worms go. So we've done both. I prefer putting them in the barn because I don't like to take chances, but that's not an option for everybody. So what can you do with your small worm bins? So let's say like these size, these are, how many gallons are these ones? These are your standard. Is he gonna tell me how many gallons? I think these are 15 gallon. Yeah, so these are 15 gallon worm bins. So these are your typical worm bin size. Bring them inside your house if you can. If you can't, you can put shredded paper on top, and that'll be like, that's literally what insulation is. We've put them on, what are those things called? They're like pet mat things to keep your pets warm. I'll show you those in a second. We've put them on top of that when we had them out in the workshop in the past, because that'll keep them warm. It raises them to a certain temperature just above freezing, because they have things like that for dog food bowl, or dog water bowls and pet water bowls and things like that, to keep the water from freezing. We use some of those types of things for our animals here. So those heating mats, shredded paper is insulation. You can wrap them in something. Some people put them in ground, which is one way to do it. It'll accomplish the same thing. And it all depends on where you are. If you're in California or Texas, this is a silly conversation. But if you're northern hemisphere, and we're in north central Illinois, we get cold winters. at putting them closer to a house or putting them near a building. They don't need to necessarily be in the building, but just something to block the cold air coming, or to snow drifts and things like that. Snow actually works as an insulator. We see it on our cows in the wintertime. If they've got snow on them, that's a good sign, because it means that it's not penetrating their hides. So that's one way. The totes that we've built, those metal cages, you can always use one of those, or put a layer of insulation or air in between the outside, because this is thick plastic, so this is a pretty good insulator. Putting an extra layer on the outside, putting a blanket or something would work, or bring them inside your house, depending on where you live. That's another option. So that's all that we do for the worms to make sure that they're going to be fine in the winter. I wouldn't, well, we'll leave it at that. So that's the worms. You can put them in your garage. Garage is fine too, as long as it's away from wind and wet, because if it gets wet, it'll freeze, it'll kill them. So you want to avoid those, and that's really, that applies to any animal. So speaking of any animal, let's talk about the other animals and what we do for them. So the cows, their pasture goes away. There is no more, there won't be grass for them, and so we kind of contain them to one area, because it's the one area that has their house, it has the water, and it has the bale feeder. So right now they have all this, and they had all this earlier in the year, but we contain them down to just this area. You can see they're in the one area. We just have 2 cows right now because the other 2 are getting bred. So they'll have their house, and that'll keep them out of the snow and the wind. So the wind comes from that direction, through this channel of trees, this way. And so we wanted them to have that, and then they get full sun most of the day, and so that's why that house is put there. The pigs, oh, their gate's open, that's scary. I'm gonna fix that. The pigs, they're getting processed in 4 weeks, I think mid-November. And so they don't really, they won't experience winter. We don't keep pigs on the farm in the winter time because they're a pain in the butt to keep warm. And so, no. Nope. You're going back in there, buddy. Oh, that's great. They didn't get me, but that could have gone bad. Well, to keep your pigs contained for their safety and yours. And then the other thing is water. So water for pigs, it freezes. We have a heating element that we put in the cow water, which is right here. So that's why there's this electric cord out here, is for that. But the pigs, they don't deal with water the same way as the cows do. They make kind of a mess of everything and they break everything. So we have to feed them a special way. And then they don't have their wallow and stuff. So we don't like having pigs in the wintertime. And a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll lock them in their barns. But that doesn't seem cool. So we just process pigs and we don't keep them in the wintertime. But this weekend, we're adding 4 more pigs because we're morons. Because the people that we got our pigs from, they had somebody that was supposed to be picking up 4 pigs 2 or 3 months ago, and they never made it. And so she reached out and said, hey, do you want these 4 pigs? And we said, sure, we'll take them. because they'll get processed in mid-December. So we figured, you know what, we'll give them a good life for the last 2 months of their life, and it shouldn't be too cold by mid-December, we hope, fingers crossed. But December 11th would be their processing date, so we'll keep them going and safe until then. Now for chickens in the winter, they're actually really hardy. They'll come out. It's kind of funny because they won't go as far as they normally do, but they will still venture out and about. The downside is we need to make sure that their water doesn't freeze. So the barn is heated and air conditioned, but because of the way the door opens for them, the cold air will get in there sometimes, and their water is right near the door, and so sometimes it freezes. But we check on our animals at least 3 times a day. In the wintertime, we pretty much double that, to make sure that no water is frozen and that they're all happy and healthy. And see, they come out the door like a foot, and then they'll just lay down and sunbathe, and that's what they do all winter. And because of this covered area, there's not going to be any, well, I say any, but that's going to change. There's usually not a whole lot of snow that'll build up there. Plus they'll trample it down so that they can still take their dust baths and whatnot. So that's what they're doing right now. So that'd be the chickens. So worms, cows, pigs, chickens, bees. So bees become pretty dormant in the winter, obviously. So they have their stores. So that's their honey that we stole some of back in September. So last month we stole honey. So anything they make from now until spring is theirs. And so we don't harvest it. We leave it for them. What we will do, we'll modify their hives to put on mouse guards, because in the next couple weeks, I think, the farmers are going to harvest their fields, and so all of the mice that are living out in the corn are going to come and find a warm place in our hives. It's a warm place. The bees keep them warm. So we put the mouse guards on there. It's just like a metal plate with small holes in it. I'll show you that. And that keeps the mice out from infesting the hive, because all the bees kind of go up and they form a ball in the middle of the hive, and but the bottom area of the hive is still warm, and so mice are attracted to that, and so they'll make that their new home. And so you want to put mouse guards on there. So that would be the bees. And then we also condense it down, because I think if they have a super on there, we'll pull it off. So we usually we do double deeps. So 2 deep boxes is enough. We take off any queen excluders so the queen doesn't get trapped. We'll add on a super on top with feed. So we'll put sugar in there, and they can take it as they need it. But usually they have enough honey stores, so it's not an issue. All right, it's a mess in here. I need to go through this. So these things are the plates that we'll use for the worm bins, and then the mouse guards that we're going to be putting up this weekend look like, oh, if I can get one, I'm trying to get one. Look at this, they're all stuck together because of propolis. Everything is propolis, but they look like this. So it's just small holes, big enough for bees, small enough that mice can't get in there. Okay, so that's everything except the humans. So let's talk about what we do for the humans. So we have what's called a boiler to heat the house. And so what it does is there's a tank of water surrounding a metal cavern type thing, and you fill it with wood, and it boils the water on the outside, and then that water goes into the house through pipes, through a pump and pipes into the house, and there's a heat exchanger in the furnace, and that's a fan blows air through the heat exchanger across those coils of warm air or warm water, and that's what heats the house. And then the cool water, after it's gone through that cycle, comes back out to the furnace, heats up again, and then the whole process starts again. So what we've been doing last couple weekends is taking down these trees. So there's a couple in here that are alive, so those will go into some sets. Some of these totes, the rest are dead and have been long dead, so you can see like the bark is coming off these. These are really old. They just need to be put under something so they dry out a little bit, but it just rained today and I didn't get a chance to do that. So that's what I've been doing with the kids, is dragging trees out of the woods and getting them cut up and put into these totes. And then what we'll do is we'll take those totes with the tractor, there's the tractor, and we move them over here by the boiler, load it up, keeps you nice and cozy. So I need to saw these ones down so I can actually get to the boiler, because we put them nearby. But essentially, I think we have old paperwork in there. Fire starters. And so we'll just fill it. It's like a fireplace essentially. Just fill it. It holds a ton. So that's why when you look at those logs, you're like, why don't you split that wood? Because you don't need to. I think it can hold like a 3-foot log. Basically anything, as long as you can lift it in there, it'll go in there. So some of these logs are huge, but as long as I can lift them in there, and they'll last longer. So we can put a couple of these in overnight, and then we don't need to check it until 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. So pretty cool. But this is the wood from that tree. So you can see some of that tree right there that I dragged out of the woods. Problem with that is it had barbed wire on it, so I set that stuff aside. So that's what that is. That needs to be split and checked for barbed wire, because I don't want to hit that with my saw. So I cut it in half where I think it'll be okay, and then we'll split the rest of it, because it's crazy heavy. I had to move that with the tractor just to get it there. I couldn't roll it, it was too big. But I want to show you what that looks like. So if you remember, all that tree had fallen down, hit this tree, caused that, which I keep putting off, and then there were a whole bunch of trees in here. Those trees have all been pulled out, but we still have all these other trees that have fallen, that every weekend I pull, I don't know, 10 trees out of here. But you can see this is the path that I'm going to make through the woods here, and I've made it about 20 feet in. This tree needs to come out. You can see it's actually loose in this giant pivot. There's that tree over there. There's these two that have fallen. That one needs to be cut down. These ones. So there's still more work to happen before winter, but we have plenty of wood. I just want to make sure we have an excess amount of wood, because we also have all the maple syrup that we need to boil down, and that takes running a stove for Last year it was 2 days straight to keep the water boiling. So we need to make sure that we have plenty of wood for that. So that's why I'm pulling down any of the dead trees. And then the brush will go off into a pile, and we'll leave that in the woods so the animals can make that into their homes. Because we want to make sure that they have a home. So we'll pull out the dead, leave them the brush, and then we'll have plenty of trees or wood to heat our home this winter. So there you go. So now the humans have warmth for winter, as well as all the other animals. So animals come first, humans come last, because we can deal with it. So there you go. That's it. All right. We'll see you all next time. Take care.